Today we are going to talk about one of the greatest con men in the history of mankind. A self-made billionaire who inherited all of his wealth and was born with a platinum spoon in his mouth. A man who takes a principled stance on outsourcing, even though he outsources himself. An honest man who ran a fake university scam that conned thousands of people out of millions of dollars. A competent businessman who went bankrupt several times. An individual who is for the working man so much that he refuses to pay his workers. This man is now President of the United States. This man is Donald Trump. And as we shall explain in a moment, this man is in fact not your man at all. In the year 2016, reality TV star Donald Trump was elected President of the United States, primarily in strong reaction to the alternative being the most distrusted and unliked politician in the country, Hillary Clinton. While Clinton has about 30 years of political baggage to haul around, Trump seemed like a wild card, a straight shooter, a political outsider. He was a zany character with an ugly haircut, way too much skin tan lotion, quirky one-liners, and the vocabulary range of a Neanderthal. He oftentimes sold himself as having a humble beginning, when his father gave him a small loan of $1 million that he used to become the business tycoon that he is today.
First and foremost, Donald Trump's humble beginning story is absurd, for he did not earn his vast wealth. He inherited a great deal of it. Throughout his life, all the way into his late 50s, he received $413 million in today's dollars from his father's real estate business, as revealed by an investigation done by the New York Times. Donald Trump's dynasty continues on, as much of his wealth was transferred from Fred and Mary Trump to their children through tax-dodging schemes such as setting up faux corporations to disguise their inheritance, or through the deliberate undervaluing of their properties. To this day, Trump refuses to reveal his tax return information from the 1990s. And besides that, when Trump's casinos were going bankrupt, his father would come in and buy millions of dollars worth of chips and walk out. So in summary, not only did he inherit his wealth, he did so through helping his parents dodge paying millions in taxes, while dodging inheritance taxes himself. Moving on, let's talk about Trump University. Trump University was established in 2005, where you too can learn the art of the deal, a place where you can go and become a cutting-edge business person and receive training from teachers handpicked by Trump himself. With an investment hotline you get access to for business opportunities, and even meet the Don in the flesh, and shake hands with him, and get your picture taken. Well, except for the fact that it wasn't an accredited university, and the teachers weren't handpicked by Trump, and there was no investment hotline, and Trump was never president at the school. So right out the gates, we're treading on sketchy ground. University instructors were constantly trying to upsell people on special classes so they could make more money. And when people paid to attend those, they were upsold on 3-day seminars where they were told Trump would attend, but he never did. University instructors were constantly trying to upsell people on special classes so that they could make more money. And when people paid to attend those, they were upsold on 3-day seminars where they were told Trump would attend, but he never did. And then they were upsold on the investment hotline that didn't exist, and finally on elite programs where they could really get the cutting-edge classes that they needed. The university instructors were basically tasked with finding the most naive people possible so they could sell them on the next best package, seminar, class, or meeting with business elites so they could get the business connections that they need to become successful entrepreneurs. Essentially, they used every form of psychological manipulation of the note to get people to pay for these worthless classes and seminars. In the end, some 5,000 students were ripped off to the tune of tens of millions of dollars while getting nothing of value back in the process. Still think Trump is your man? I've got more. It's no secret that Don the Con has a history of stiffing contractors and subcontractors. Contractor Forrest Jenkins and company was tasked with installing toilet partitions at Trump's Taj Mahal casino in 1988. He and DeZilk were set to be paid $200,000 for the job. 2 years later, and the casino goes bankrupt. Jenkins and his crew did all the work and didn't get paid. He had to go to bankruptcy court to get a third of what he was owed for the contract in the end. This is just one example of many. Donald Trump is notorious for stiffing his workers and not paying those he contracts. Right now, there are thousands of ongoing lawsuits against the president. many of which are for similar reasons. And now, just as he hosed his workers before being president, he is doing so whilst being president, as there are almost 600,000 federal workers that had to work without pay during the government shutdown, and Trump actively blocked their back pay. At this point, it should be pretty evident that he doesn't care about the working man, irrespective of his rhetoric about stopping outsourcing and bringing back jobs and building up the middle class. Stopping the trade deals and bringing good-paying jobs back to America was one of Donald Trump's main selling points during the 2016 election. Large manufacturing corporations, in their reckless pursuit of increased cost efficiency, are moving their labor to nations abroad. After all, why pay an American $20 an hour to be an assembly line operator when you can pay a Mexican the equivalent of $2 an hour? This trend is continuing even under Trump's administration and isn't going to stop anytime soon. The jobs aren't coming back. For one, the reason why most of the manufacturing jobs have been lost is actually because of automation, not trade. And anything short of a UBI won't fix this problem in the long term. This is the elephant in the room that you won't hear anybody except oligarchs from Silicon Valley advocating for. Human employment is now becoming inverse with productivity, as machines can do the job better, don't require benefits or sick leave, and the factory owners need not worry about robots getting together and unionizing. Second, Donald Trump won't and has not stopped any outsourcing since he has become president. In fact, the number of jobs being outsourced has actually been on the rise. The Labor Department has confirmed that under President Trump, 93,000 jobs were outsourced in his first year alone, which is greater than the average of the last 5 years at 87,000 annually. This is just one of many campaign promises he failed to deliver on. And finally, here's the punchline. Donald Trump outsources himself. His ties are made in China. Suits are made in Indonesia, furniture made in Turkey, crystal glasses made in Slovenia, vodka made in Germany and the Netherlands, and coffee mugs made in Thailand. So how exactly is he going to stop other companies from outsourcing if he can't even stop it for himself? And even if he could, why would he? It's pretty clear, based on evidence established prior, that he doesn't care about the workers. Moving on. Allow me to reinforce further how he is not on the side of the working people. That is, if it isn't becoming increasingly obvious. Donald Trump, in spite of all the wealth he has inherited and the mask he puts on to flaunt how he's some kind of successful billionaire business genius, has crashed several of his own businesses and filed bankruptcy 6 times. 3 of these bankruptcies were over failed casinos. How one goes about bankrupting a casino, only God knows. Regardless, due to his losses, he has had to borrow money from a number of entities to keep himself afloat. Donald Trump has a considerable amount of private debt held on Wall Street to the tune of hundreds of millions. So not only is he a capitalist himself, but he is indebted to the capitalist elites as well. And after 2 years of him being president, it is easy to see that he has heeded their call and answered their requests. And what do they want? The same thing they always want. Tax cuts and deregulations. Tax cuts and deregulations, and not to mention tax cuts and deregulations. Not only is Trump set on neutering Dodd-Frank, which is an already weak piece of legislation, but he just recently passed a tax plan that is nothing more than a giant giveaway to the 1%, as the majority of the benefits go straight to the wealthiest earners in the country and actually raise taxes on the middle class and the poor progressively over time. And here we have the system coming full circle. We have a government lax rules in the financial sector while giving these people more money at the same time. The economy takes off, and then they proceed to play their speculation games and place their bets and implement their predatory payday schemes, siphoning wealth out of the economy. And just about overnight, the value of price inelastic commodities skyrocket, causing people to stop purchasing en masse, the flow of money comes to a halt, businesses go bust, and the house of cards comes collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions. The result is that millions of people's lives have been ruined, and in addition, responsibility now rests on those very same people to bail out the financial institutions and the perpetrators who got us in this mess in the first place. And unsurprisingly, these very same people are now in charge of our government, as Trump has filled his cabinet with Goldman Sachs investors, Bilderberg attendees, lobbyists, and billionaire oligarchs. We haven't even touched upon the many actions that he has taken as president that are fundamentally anti-American. And with respect to his record thus far, I can confidently say he is actively working against the popular will of the people. I shall cite 5 examples of such actions.
Number 1. He signed a bill to repeal internet privacy rights against the popular majority. Thanks to him, it is now legal for websites to take and compile any sensitive data about you and sell it to advertisers. Number 2. He increased the U.S. military offense budget by another $80 billion against the popular majority, and is set to increase it to $750 billion in the coming years. Most Americans do not want military spending to increase, conservative and liberal, and yet he signed it in and made it so anyways. Number 3. He actively denies climate change, even calling it a Chinese hoax at one point. And he put Scott Pruitt, a fossil fuel lobbyist, in charge of the EPA, and now the EPA is laxing rules and regulations on pollution, allowing companies to save money at the expense of the environment and public health. Number 4. He went back on his word about not cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, as now his 2020 budget plan will involve cutting all 3. Number 5. His infrastructure plan is nothing more than a giveaway to Wall Street, as many of our roads, freeways, utility companies, airports, and bridges around the country are set to be privatized. Expect an uptake in the toll booths in the coming years.
So, in conclusion, Donald Trump is a pathologically lying, megalomaniacal, despotic buffoon. He has no real ideology or underlying beliefs, and he has been on both sides of tons of issues, from abortion to negotiating cheaper drug prices, wages, prosecuting the Clintons, ending the wars in the Middle East, whether or not we should keep the Electoral College, etc., etc. Like all wealthy oligarchs, all he cares about is making money, irrespective of the social consequences. He is not your man, he has never been your man, and you are a fool if you think otherwise.
And we cut.